California Connected is made possible by the William and Flora Hewlett Foundation, making grants to solve social and environmental problems at home and around the world. The California Endowment, working to improve the health of and healthcare for all of California's communities. The James Irvine Foundation, expanding opportunity for the people of California. And the Annenberg Foundation, advancing public well-being through improved communication. Tonight, a special edition of California Connected.
I'm a soldier. Wasn't supposed to cry, but I couldn't help it.
To save my life, they sacrificed permanent brain, which is okay. I'm glad to be alive.
They suffer from the signature injury of the Iraq War, TBI, or traumatic brain injury.
They're wounded in their dreams. They're wounded in their ambitions. They're not going to be able to achieve in life what they had originally wanted. And these are people in their 20s.
We'll take you inside a place few have ever seen, the Palo Alto VA Polytrauma Unit.
What you want to do is you want to turn a little bit.
Where men and women who've served in Iraq try to reclaim their bodies and their minds.
You guys are speaking too fast for me.
The journey to the center of your heart.
One at a time, please. One at a time.
It's a problem that may be much greater than we thought.
So we know we have hundreds, but we could have thousands.
We have thousands. We have thousands of people who don't know that they are brain injured.
California Connected. War stories from Ward 7D. Reporting from the Presidio in San Francisco, here's Lisa McCree.
This story is not about politics, about how we got to Iraq or how we'll get out. It's about the men and women who went and their struggle to come home.
I've heard so many great things about going to Iraq and helping the people in the government there. So I thought it was a great opportunity to do something great.
His name is Staff Sergeant Jay Wilkerson, and today his greatest challenge is picking up a paperclip.
The feeling slowly coming back. And there's two nerves that go through your thumb. The occupational therapist told me that need to attach.
The same year she became an American citizen, Claudia Carrion joined the Army National Guard.
I had the opportunity to come to this country, and I wanted to say thank you to this country for opening their doors to me and my family. 27. I don't remember how the accident happened, but somehow my knees got hurt.
And while Claudia and Jay's injuries may look manageable, down the hall it's a different story.
Haley. Hi.
It's been 6 months since Frank Sandoval's brain was damaged by an explosion in Iraq.
He joined the military shortly after 9/11.
I miss you.
Missed you too, baby. He wanted to make a change. He wanted to be something important.
Michelle is Frank's wife.
We've been married going on 4 years. Of course, we have our beautiful daughter. Frankie's such a strong person, and him being here is one thing that I know is going to be okay because he's making such a big improvement.
Here is Ward 7D of the Palo Alto VA Hospital, one of 4 VA polytrauma units in the United States.
It's set up to receive individuals who've received multiple wounds, multiple system damage.
Dr. Harriet Ziner is a clinical neuropsychologist.
You may notice some of the patients here are wearing helmets, and that's because part of their injuries have actually destroyed some of the bone, and all that's there is some skin. So they wear the helmet until such time as surgeons can make a prosthetic skull and replace it.
She's very jealous-hearted.
In a matter of weeks, that will happen for Frank, and his head will again have a normal shape. But elsewhere on the ward, there are injuries less visible that are nonetheless devastating.
It's not an obvious injury.
No, they look like everyone else. They look like themselves.
It is the signature injury of this war, TBI, traumatic brain injury.
A traumatic brain injury is an injury to brain tissue, which is extremely soft stuff, has the consistency of like Jell-O left at room temperature. It's so soft that when they do surgery on the brain, they don't use knives, they use little suction pipettes.
And the reason brain injury has become the signature injury has a lot to do with the signature weapon of this war, the improvised explosive device.
Get up! Get up! Get up!
There's a concussive force that moves through them. When this moves back and forth, it hits the bony part inside your skull. That's where a lot of damage occurs from these improvised explosive devices.
I've suffered a traumatic brain injury in Baghdad, Iraq. It's something that most people, if they're not in the medical field, they're not aware of the phases of it. But if I didn't have on this neck brace and I was walking around normally, you wouldn't know anything's wrong.
We'll make a copy of it and then we'll give it back to you.
But even if you can't see the damage, you can see the symptoms.
They're slowed in their information processing. So they're focusing very hard to listen to you one-on-one. They're sort of 45 RPMs in a 78 RPM world.
Meaning it's a long journey.
No, say that.
Okay, the journey to the center of your heart.
The journey to the center of your heart is like the journey to the center of the earth.
You guys are speaking too fast for
The
me.
journey to the center of your heart.
One at a time, please. One at a time. One.
You see a lot of irritability, and it's not because there's an irritability center in the brain that gets released. It's because life gets so hard that you're frustrated and you're using up all your energy and you're overwhelmed, you're overstimulated.
Even alone in her room, Claudia's frustration remains because in her case, the greatest injury she sustained was to the part of the brain that allows her to remember.
It's a daily struggle. I have to write everything down every day, everything that I do, everything that happens. And if I don't do it at the end of the day or during the day, the next day I might not remember.
And it's not just the everyday events of her life she loses, it's the people in it as well.
People that are close to me, I have to have pictures of them. Otherwise, if I stop seeing them for about a week or two, their image will be gone.
Even the image of her own child.
To the best of my recollection, I have never been pregnant. I don't know what it is to be pregnant. I don't know what it is to give birth. And basically, I don't know what it is to have a child. All that I know is that I have a baby. She is my daughter. She is 2 years old. I talk to her every day. She says, "Mommy," because she sees pictures of me. But I don't know. I do not have the feeling in the relationship between a mother and a daughter. How is it possible that I forget such a great event in my life when it's something that nobody will never forget?
20% of the people who've been injured are women who have head injuries. And I actually think some of the head injuries and some of the traumas that occur are experienced somewhat differently by women than by men. Men certainly hate the loss of memory, the loss of information. Women experience it as a change in their ability to relate. And that, again, is what I meant by the wound internally, the wound in who you want to be in this life.
But that's not to say the ability to relate doesn't matter to men, too. Just ask Jay.
How did it feel when you realized that the person you didn't recognize was actually your own brother?
It felt weird. I cried, and he told me, if you feel like crying, you go ahead and cry, because you're still a man if you cry. Because I always thought crying was, I'm a soldier. I wasn't supposed to cry, but I couldn't help it. I cried because I felt like I've lost too much memory.
If we saw each other tomorrow, you may or may not remember our conversation.
I'm hoping that I will remember, but to be very truthful and honest, I don't really know if I will remember even having this conversation tomorrow.
So how do you begin to rebuild a life when everything you relearn can be so quickly forgotten? But first, now that you've met some of the patients of Ward 7D, how do they get there? Though every soldier has his or her own reason for going to war, what they all share in common is that moment that changed their lives forever.
As a squad leader, I was responsible for conducting patrols, raids, operations.
Army Staff Sergeant Eric Cagle was the leader of an 11-man rifle squad in Hawaja.
Kicking down doors, taking down the enemy, searching fields for mortars and explosives.
I was in Iraq 10 months without an incident at all because we were always aware of our surroundings.
Last March, Army Staff Sergeant Jay Wilkerson was part of a convoy heading out of Fallujah.
And it just happened so quickly. Our Humvee was coming around the corner. The insurgents shot off the first RPG missile, and it was a direct hit.
On a morning in October of 2004, Eric's luck changed too.
On a routine patrol, we rounded a corner, a bomb went off and took me out. Improvised explosive device, a hole with a bunch of explosives packed into it, and a wire coming out of it to blow it. It went off, took out most of the front of the vehicle, took out the area where my feet were at.
The second one hit us, and it hit us inside the Humvee, and it exploded. It exploded, and shrapnel went everywhere. And I had a big hole on the left side of my cheek, and it was so huge to where I was out, and the Kevlar that I had on my head was cracked down the middle, and the goggles were just melted away.
When Jay woke up, he was at the Walter Reed Army Hospital in Washington, D.C.
I panicked a lot of times because I would feel like I didn't know if I was in an American hospital or if I was somewhere else. I didn't know. So I asked the nurse to put up a American flag. So when I woke up, I would always know I'm in an American hospital.
His brother Tommy flew from California to be at his side.
My brother actually would stay with me at night and rub my back. And he never rubbed my back when we were younger, but he did this time.
Nearly 11% of those killed and injured in Iraq come from California, more than any other state. And because Jay's family lives here in the Bay Area, he was transferred to the Palo Alto VA hospital, the VA's only polytrauma unit on the West Coast.
Hey, you're cheating there.
Yes, I am.
Almost 2 years after the explosion that nearly killed Eric, he's here too.
When I first got up, I was a consistency of a rag doll. In fact, my nickname was Eeyore, because I was like this all the time. I couldn't hold my neck up. I was in extreme pain.
And like everyone on the polytrauma unit, he's recovering from a staggering combination of injuries.
A piece of shrapnel hit me in the head, right here, straight into my brain. And it cut my carotid artery. I lost my entire blood volume. They had to pinch it off so I would quit bleeding, which is actually what caused the brain damage. To save my life, they sacrificed permanent brain, which is okay. I'm glad to be alive.
And in Eric's case, the injury to his brain damaged his ability to control his impulses.
How do you retrain yourself to be in control of that's gone?
You just gotta monitor what you say and think real hard and long in your conversations. You always gotta be thinking, don't say anything, don't say anything, don't say anything, don't say anything dumb, don't say anything dumb.
Dr. Harriet Zeiner says many of these injuries are a direct result of the evolution or de-evolution of modern warfare.
What the Kevlar body armor did is it protected the individual from neck to mid-thigh, and then the helmet came down to here. And that's where we ended up with IEDs, which can take out a large number of people wearing Kevlar body armor. So we've now protected them from gunshot wounds, but they're being blown up.
I was told that I was in an accident, that we were on a mission. We were hauling fuel, and an Iraqi truck head-on collision into our truck.
And there's another cause of brain injury that's also unique to this war.
About half of the injuries are motor vehicle accidents, and I was very surprised by that When you're driving in Baghdad, from the minute you leave the compound, you're told to floor it, because that basically makes you a quicker target for snipers, for IEDs that are remotely detonated.
And even though Claudia can be taught how to drive again, her devastating brain injury makes that harder than it sounds.
Please turn on the radio. Please slide the climate control to the right.
And the driving simulator isn't Claudia's only high-tech helper. Because her injury destroyed her ability to remember, she's being trained on a personal data assistant, a PDA, to help her remember everything from when to take her medications to the names and faces of her family members.
Let's look at today's appointments, okay? You got yours? It's a memory prosthesis. A prosthesis is something like a brace, like she's wearing on her knee right now, to help support the knee. Well, this is a support for her memory. For example, if you're going to do something on Saturday.
Basically, this is my memory. It's just that my memory is not in my head anymore. It's on my hands.
And traumatic brain injury is not just a problem for soldiers like Claudia who've come home.
We're getting calls from the military on these military conference calls that there are people who are being exposed to 5 and 6 blasts now.
Dr. Zeiner says the military is now realizing it's got a big problem on the battlefield.
The military's concern is, are they still battle ready? Can they follow orders? Can they protect their buddies? We tell sergeants, if you had someone who was operating pretty well and suddenly they're starting to look like a screw up, they're starting to look changed and different in some way, suspect that something has happened and it's time to get that person screened.
In fact, that is exactly what happened with Claudia.
She was significantly injured, but they thought it was her knees and her back. No one recognized that she had a head injury. And so she's one of those people who had a stellar record before and now suddenly was seen as you're not following orders, you're lazy, you're screwing up, and she was actually demoted.
And the number of brain-injured victims like Claudia may be grossly underestimated.
So we know we have hundreds, but we could have thousands?
We have thousands. We have thousands of people who don't know that they are brain injured. And we think what's happening is that a truck goes over, an IED goes off, and one guy or two guys are really seriously injured. And so the system goes right into play for them. They're medevac, they're taken care of. But the other 5 guys in the truck were thrown against the walls, and they had a blast effect. They just pick up and they go.
While the VA estimates it's treated some 800 soldiers for TBI, Zeiner says the real number of victims could be 10 times that.
If this war stops right now, we estimate that there are about 8,200 people right now who've been sent home who do not know they have a head injury. And they and their families are suffering the consequences of that.
Though there are different degrees of recovery, the patients of Ward 7D will have to deal with the consequences of their brain injuries for the rest of their lives, and so will their families. And if the doctors at Palo Alto are right, and the numbers are as great as they believe, so will we all. So how will these patients and their families manage? And what can we do as a society to help them? Well, you start at the beginning, by getting them out the door.
He's going to the movies for the first time. His first real outing where he's going to go out and, do a little something fun for him. And he loves going to the movies.
You heard right. Frank Sandoval is going to the movies.
So whenever you're ready, we'll go out through the patio.
It may not be a big deal to you or me, but to him, it's everything.
Doing pretty well by himself. What movie are you going to see?
Over the hedge.
That's right.
Say again?
Over the hedge.
Over the hedge.
Jay also gets a chance to get off the hospital grounds.
My brother took me to Pier 39 last week, and I've never been there. And it was really a good experience to see people happy for a change and not always see people that are carrying weapons and upset and angry all the time. And we ate some, I think it was seafood. It was very good. I couldn't really chew it, but I tried.
I work all week, and I can't wait till Friday rolls around so I can drive out here and get them. Friday's my favorite day because that's the day that I can come out here and pick Jay up.
Meanwhile, Eric gets ready for his next trip by practicing how to get in and out of a van.
So the seat's going to be over here. Exactly. You want to turn toward me.
Since his wife left him, the weight of Eric's care has shifted to the shoulders of his mother, Linda.
Well, he's my son. There's no choice. That's what we do. As moms, that's what we do.
And sometimes it seems that Eric is facing the challenges of infancy all over again.
Things like when he first started to talk, his first word was hi, and we got all excited about his first word of being hi. And then when he had his first meal, got all excited about, excuse me.
But even with those victories, she can't always hide the stress and the grief. Claudia's biggest challenge isn't physical, it's neurological.
Right now I am in a safe environment because everybody knows my problems. But once I go back to my house and my family, I think it's going to be a big change, and problems are going to rise that I probably don't know.
Despite the differences in their injuries, Claudia, Frank, Eric, and Jay share one thing in common: concern for their friends still in Iraq.
I wanted to stay as a family and come home with everyone, but I got injured. And I feel like my heart's still there because most of my friends are still there, and I hope they come home safely.
But Jay knows that doesn't always happen. His best friend died in the attack that nearly claimed his own life.
I feel sorry for my friend that died, Staff Sergeant Hernandez, because he was my best buddy. We did everything together in Iraq. And my brother actually told me that my best friend passed away. When I woke up, I was wondering why he didn't call me. He usually calls and sees how I'm doing.
Who gave you the little bear?
His fiance gave me the bear, and she gave it to me to represent strength. And she always told me that Robert Hernandez is always on my shoulder, and he's always encouraging me to get well. So I could keep him on top of me like he's on my shoulder all the time.
Somehow, they find the strength to do what they do each day, taking big steps and small here on Ward 7D.
And they said he would never walk.
They said he would never walk.
They said I would never walk again in my life. Yeah, right. What'd I just do now? I think I walked. Take that.
Frank, yesterday when we were planning this out, you dictated the directions to me looking at the map. So what I want you to do when we get to the front of the hospital is I want you to read me the directions and tell me which way to go, okay? Okay? Mm-hmm. All right.
It's improvements. It's showing that, we're moving towards one day going home. And, he'll be able to get in the car and, hopefully just walk away home and not in a wheelchair.
How you doing? Good. How you doing?
Good, like always.
Thanks. How's everything?
I'm feeling.
Good.
Feeling good?
Yeah.
You ready to get on out of here?
Yeah.
Good.
Okay, go.
Our family feels blessed that Jay was able to come home. But, we understand that there's a lot of families that lost a lot of loved ones, fathers, sons. We don't take this for granted, not one bit. We feel blessed that Jay's home, and a lot of other families haven't been so lucky.
Hey, buddy, slow down a little bit.
We leave you tonight with something that's helping Jay, writing his story in poems for himself, for his friends who've died, for all of those who are still there, and for us.
To be the way I used to be is an honor, for truly I am an American soldier and a man, truly blessed. And I put my life on the line for this country, and in return, I'm still alive, and day by day, I feel peace.
We'd like to thank Staff Sergeant Jay Wilkerson, Staff Sergeant Eric Hagel, Sergeant Frank Sandoval, Specialist Claudia Carrion and their families, and the staff at the Palo Alto VA Hospital's Polytrauma Unit. And we'd like to thank you for watching. For all of us at California Connected, I'm Lisa McCree in San Francisco.
War Stories from Ward 7D has been a special presentation of California Connected.
If you'd like to know more about the Palo Alto VA Hospital, traumatic brain injury, support services for veterans and their families, and more, visit our website at californiaconnected.org.
For more daily coverage of California, check out the California Report on your local public radio station or go to californiareport.org. California Connected is made possible by the William and Flora Hewlett Foundation, making grants to solve social and environmental problems at home and around the world. The California Endowment, working to improve the health of and healthcare for all of California's communities. The James Irvine Foundation, expanding opportunity for the people of California. And the Annenberg Foundation, advancing public well-being through improved communication.